the Queer Witch Project, your resource for all things queer and witchy. I am Damona Peacock, your fabulous non-binary, neurodivergent, ordained queerdo with a hyperfixation for symbolism, cycles, and patterns.
And I am Moon Kitty, your queer femme poly kitchen witch and proud geek. Today's topic is meet your hosts.
Hello!
Hello.
It's us. Nice to meet you.
Welcome in.
Okay, we're done. The awkwardness is over. No, just
Totally.
totally kidding. Yeah. So we have avoided this topic for multiple episodes. Whew. So I decided that I'm going to talk about you.
And I'm going to talk about you. That way, avoid the awkwardness of trying to talk about ourselves.
Yay.
Yay.
And then in the process, we'll end up talking about ourselves.
Yeah. Whatever.
The ego does need some fluffing.
A little bit. But do you mind if I start with you first?
Go for it.
Okay. So it's hard to even know where to start when it comes to Damona Peacock. This vibrant, electric, magnetic creature will capture your imagination and have you seeking to be a part of their spirit from the moment you see them. If you haven't already, check it out. Now, trust me on this. I do know. Because the first time I saw Damona was at a community picnic, and I can still remember their vibrant color and laughter drawing in everyone to just come sit for a moment and share in the beautiful colors of their world. I knew nothing about them, and they were just sitting there, and I was like, oh, I want to be over there. Since then, I've gotten to know them, and our friendship has deepened. I am constantly amazed by the deep well of compassion, patience, and genuine interest they have for others. Their Cancer sun has a very strong hold on their empathy and their ability to see beauty in so many things that others dismiss, and their unapologetic acknowledgement of their own emotions and the struggles that come with feeling them so intensely. I value that so much because it's hard to talk about when we're not feeling good. It's hard to talk about the hard, and they do it so incredibly beautiful. Their Sag rising gives them the wanderlust to explore nature's beauty, and you will often find them wandering around the lake or beach, just driving through the mountains, or embracing the magic of nature wherever they may find it. It also gives them the fire intensity that protects and will destroy anyone who causes harm to someone they call family. This is a fiery, raging Saggy Cancer inferno with a water tornado spinning in the middle if you cross them in any way, shape, or form. Damona is mother to two incredible Fae children, and they support, protect, educate, and nourish their sense of wonder in a world that sees them different. Damona's empathy, connection with their ancestors, and the ability to see the magic of the cycles of life have come to fruition as she is currently following a long-held dream to become a death doula, and she is certified to do so, to help others find comfort in the changing seasons of life. It's something we don't like to talk about, but having someone who can help you through those end days is incredibly important. And that's magical. And it's just a token of who she is. It's just awesome. Magically, Damona embodies the essence of the Empress to me in tarot. They are mother, nurturer, beauty, color, and the giver of gifts. I have watched them over the years help so many others find their innate magical talents and abilities, often just by saying a few words or asking a question that will then spark that drive to seek the answer and discover for themselves who they are. Their experience in tarot and numerology will have you staring in amazement as they tell you exactly what is happening in your life and why without having known anything about you prior to that conversation.
It's the cards.
It's the cards. And the numbers. It's shocking. It's crazy.
And the numbers, that's right.
Practically, Damona is body positive, sex positive, proudly and unapologetically queer. And they are never afraid to speak up about the challenges that face those who are on the outside of that heteronormative neurotypical spectrum. Their love of drag is legendary. Music speaks to their soul, and queer communities are the rainbow energy that are used to fuel their fire. Their laughter calls on those on the outside and welcomes them in with love and joy, always. You're such my dear friend. Damona is my dear friend, my soul sib, and a part of my heart. I cannot wait to see how their wisdom and intuition speaks to all of you. So buckle up, buttercups. We're going on a journey.
Aww. This would be really great if we were live somewhere and I was reading people their numerology, because then, buckle up, Buttercup, about to read you for Phil. But
It's so true, though. It's just such a journey, and it's such a different thing that you do. Like, so the first time you read my numbers, and I know we'll have a numerology episode 2 coming up at some point, so you will hear exactly what we mean by this. But just reading the numbers and knowing exactly what I was going through, when and where, and my life path, and all of these things, it was just like, wow. And then the cards and everything is just, your intuition is legendary. It's really, really
aw,
amazing.
it's a gift, but I'm very grateful for it, and I sharpened it.
Hmm.
I've maintained the tool, but yeah, it's always been a journey to get into that stuff. But
Oh, yeah.
it's also very born in me with that, Scorpio moon.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, that double water feed, like
ah,
making the water
the
boil with that fire in between and the steam. It's so good.
this makes just talking about this stuff, and I'm just like, I'm so glad we get to do this stuff together.
I
Ah,
know, it's so fun. We've talked about doing things like this for years, and it's just this year felt right. It was the right thing to do at the right time, and I love it. I'm having so much fun.
speaking of you having
Uh,
fun,
okay.
Jake is a horrible person. I don't know why I'm here. No, I'm just kidding. I had to break the ice with a joke
Shh. You're not supposed to say that.
because it's not true. All right. My friend, Jay Moonkit, is a magical and dazzlingly charismatic Sagittarius who fully embraces that sense of adventure and the spark of life. It draws you in. It's magnetic. She literally has the best smile. I said that so you would smile. Literally. And is full of kindness and sass. Because that's true.
I don't know what you're talking about.
A gamer geek and a crafty cosplaying badass, because I can say that. Shay knows how to have fun and how to share that fun with those who want to join in with her. If
I try.
you if you stalk Shay on Instagram, you'll see some of their cute and creative cosplays. Yeah, you post
Hmm.
that stuff
I do.
often.
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes you post the process of making them, which I think is, I
I'm
know it's
working on
hair
that.
raising for you, but
Content, baby. I'm always
yeah,
making the
right.
content.
I just kind of like to see how things come together, and
Hmm.
sometimes you share it with us. So,
Yes.
Shay also writes fairy tale and Oran fanfic,
Mhm.
and as her Gemini moon would suggest, and her intro of me proves, Moon Kitty has a way with words.
I tend to be very wordy. I know it. I write and I can't stop.
No shame in the moon energy game, that moon gift, that full moon in Gemini when you were born gifted you. Yeah.
I had to always say that between I'm a contracts and dualities, because you have my Sagittarius sun, so you have half human, half horse. You have my Libra rising, so you've got the scales of balance and that duality, and you have the Gemini moon at in
Another
full. It was a
duality.
full moon, so you got the highest intensity of that duality of the twins, and it's just like I am split down the middle. I am always going to be this like duality kind of person. It's just who I am.
Yeah. And you also love music,
Yes.
whether that's singing karaoke or dancing like nobody or everyone is watching, learning about new songs and exploring genres of music because a loved one feels passionate about them,
Hmm.
or attending gigs with your musician partner. You
Yes.
can often be found being the best rodeo party partner ever hoped for. A party, roadie partner, party.
Yes.
You are the best party and a roadie partner could ever hope.
I try. It's just it no I know that support roles are so incredibly important to people, and having had people offer that role of support for me, being able to help that for someone else, it takes the stress away
Yeah.
from all the other things you need to worry about.
I understand that. Yeah. I've that's why I like to co-teach or
Yes.
co-create or conspire. Yeah, it's always nice to share the burden. Shay is also body positive, sex positive, full of encouragement around being our authentic selves, and often generous with genuine compliments and flirtations. Hello, Libra rising. Just saying. One thing I always know about you is if I'm feeling particularly touch starved, you're someone who's willing to just like hug me and squeeze me and snuggle me, and it's totally platonic
Hmm.
or any pressure or any discomfort. But it's just like if I need human contact, you're someone who just doesn't hesitate to like ground ground a good friend in our own humanity. And
Thank
that
you.
always means so much to me.
I I I feel the connection of people, and it's so hard sometimes, again, asking for consent and knowing, because I just want to reach out and hug people sometimes because I can see them struggling, and it's like I just want to, I feel that connection. We connect as people,
Yeah.
and just sometimes having that, the
And
hand or the hug or something else in those moments. I
I'm
know
so
it brings me back, so I want to be able to bring others back too.
I'm so glad that we get to share that connection. That
Hmm.
you get to be some of that, that anchor for me sometimes.
Mm.
But also an instigator.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't, it's fun. How are you gonna
um,
how are you gonna go on an adventure if you're not willing to just like take a tiny bit of a leap? And you never
yeah,
know where it's gonna go. I've gotten to go some really cool places and do some really cool things.
that's that spark. That's the adventure. From the moment that we met, we started connecting over spiritual curiosities and sharing deep soul nurturing conversations. Can I
Mhm.
just say that I love when I meet people and we just kind of skip the small talk and get into like real life and
Mhm.
just not trauma dumping. I do try to be like aware of that and pull
Mhm.
back on that a lot, especially when I'm meeting new people. But
Right.
just a genuine like, who are you?
Mhm.
This is who I am. Can we be friends?
Yes,
And I think we hit that one off really well.
I think so.
Um, Shay's talents include throwing amazing parties, dancing because the music moves her, listening to folks, like really listening, and offering insightful, intuitive guidance, making deep connections, and sharing her passions with anybody who wants to listen. We share a love for drag shows.
Mhm.
We have been on many a drag
Yes.
show adventure, which is one of my
Yes.
favorite memories with us.
Oh, they're so much fun.
A love for femme-powered artistic expression, building community, and uplifting those who have otherwise felt like outcasts or outsiders. Shay brings experience in polyamorous relationships, kitchen witchery, and exploring numerous tarot and oracle decks, like an extensive library full of tarot and oracle decks, and building a YouTube channel featuring the unboxing and interview of said deck, which is fascinating. Just a little offshoot here. I love Shay's approach to getting a new deck and interviewing it and being like, "Who are you going to be for me?
Mhm.
What kind of work do you like to do, Mr. Tarot or Miss Tarot or Ms. Mixed Tarot deck?" I
Mhm.
just love your tarot interview and
Thank you.
your approach. Um,
I because
yeah,
we've mentioned this when we've had other episodes and such. It's just, I think every artist has an inspiration or a message they're getting across the deck. And sometimes, as we know just from talking to people, sometimes you can say something and that message isn't quite, you're not, no one don't hear it quite right, or there's miscommunication, or it's like, hey, I'm talking about this thing and I'm talking about this thing, and we're not quite talking about the same thing. And I like getting clear messages. I like knowing what I'm talking about and who. So when every time I get that new deck, I want to interview. It's like, okay, what are you? What is your energy? Because there are going to be times, are you one of those people that I can hang out with all the time? Or are you one of those kind of decks or persons that they are
time and a place.
fantastic, like once every 6 months? Kind good thing.
And the best thing is you have like this Rolodex of relationships with different decks in your brain. And if I have any question about like, hey, I have a friend who's looking for, a feminine empowered deck or a really chaotic deck or a really goofy deck, you'd be just like, oh, I know this flavor of deck is going to be the right one for them.
Yes.
So you're definitely a resource on those things. And
Thank you.
I really appreciate your passion for a mutually shared hyperfixation.
Yes. And again, you, in a lot of ways, you inspired my hyperfixation because, again, when I first came in to the community, can we talk a little bit about our coming out stories? Because I think this ties into the whole what we're talking about now and how you were an inspiration to me in so many ways with the tarot, with everything else. Is growing up, I always had this interest and I hid it. I hid it for so many years. And I had the stereotypical kind of relationship of mainstream USA. I had my high school boyfriend that I ended up getting married to, and we were married for a very long time. And during that time frame, I was trying to be someone that I wasn't. And it just finally came to a head after a very long time. We were married for almost 18 years. And it just realizing that where I was is not who I was anymore. And what had brought us together initially, we were too far apart. We had gone down this road together, but each step taking like a half inch apart from each other and just couldn't reconnect. So I was not the same person. No one's the same person at 15 as they are at 35. Let's just be honest with that. But things shift and change. And they wanted that they really enjoyed that mainstream concept of, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. You get married, you're to your high school sweetheart, you do these kinds of things. These are the acceptable, normal things you do. And I just never wanted to do that. I was married, but I was still constantly, again, exploring polyamory and exploring myself and trying to hide that wishy aspect. And when it all kind of fell apart, and I had known you in between, so you've literally seen both sides of me, the pre-marriage and post, and
just like you've met me pre-kids, or as I like to call it, BC, before kids, before children. So I know that we've been friends for over a decade because I've been parenting for just about that long. And you also, I always remember you rescued you made sure that the baby shower happened.
Yes.
You helped make sure the baby shower happened. And I'll always remember that.
But it's just seeing your comfort in your own vibrancy, your comfort in your own spirituality, and seeing you do this medium of tarot, which I had tried. And every time I tried reading the cards, it never made sense. It never came out right. I'm like going, I can't do tarot. Apparently, I'm just not going to be those people. I can't do tarot. And just through you, it's like, no, we can. You can open up, you can read it. And when I stopped hiding who I was, when I, again, came out as queer, as bisexual, as pansexual, as a quinky, as a witch, all of that kind of thing. And when I stepped out of that closet, it was like all of a sudden something unlocked. And the tarot readings that I remember you giving me a breakdown of a tarot reading, and I don't think I have it saved somewhere. It's like, what is happening? What is shifting? And the Fool card just kept coming up over and over in like 2 or 3 different decks. And it's like, okay, no, you need to jump. You need to trust and jump and do this. And it did. And once I just got that first deck and realized that I could do this, it opened it up to this obsession. And it has been fun. It has been really fun gifting people or finding the right deck for people, because it is just, it's what do you want? What do you need? How do I do this?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the things that kind of, let's just say it's a tell as to whether I'm going to be a good fit as a friend for a person or not, because I tend to see through the mask, and I want to see into who you are, the person. And I think from the moment we met, I saw that you are a magical witchy person, and so I started like probing like those conversations between us, because I just felt like we had that connection, and I didn't know at that time how hidden that part of you was, and how I just brought it right on out. Like I pulled that out. I'm just like blah, 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 blah. And like I always remember, the first time I talked you into coming to the Pagan convention that we used to go to in San Jose called PantheaCon. And you slept in a king bed between me and my roommate,
Mm-hmm.
my best roommate of all time.
And
And then we eventually, talked to another person and had to go get 2 queen beds because
yes,
we had the best roommate situation of all time. But like you were definitely a part of that and one of the most magical moments of my life.
it was coming home. It was such a crazy experience because I tended to stay one night, and you like talked me into the entire weekend. It was hysterical.
And I also remember like I literally slept the best I had ever slept before because there was some sort of like just feeling like I was sleeping in my bed at home, snuggled up and comforted.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So we were like, no, you can totally stay. You don't have to be home. Oh yeah, we like having a moon kitty in the middle of our bed. Totally platonically, but
Completely
yeah,
platonically, but
absolutely
it's
snuggles.
absolute
Yeah,
snuggles and absolute connection on that
yeah,
kind of a deeper level.
yeah. And that's when I think the doors really started to open for you, and I got to watch you be that, starting that full journey and
Mm.
taking those leaps of faith. And even I remember just watching you figure out how you're gonna do your Twitch streaming to like now how it's so streamlined and like you just really sharpened that skill, and it's so beautiful to watch you do it sometimes, like
Mm.
dropping some truth bombs.
Oh, so much.
Yeah. So I did have I think one more paragraph that I had written about you. Shay has stepped up as an auntie to my babies, offering nothing short of love, acceptance, and encouragement in the face of their challenges. Generous, reliable, fun-loving, snuggly, compassionate, Moon Kitty is a gem of a friend and a treasure of a human. I like
I like that one too. And there is nothing difficult about loving your kiddos. They are so amazing. They are so inspirational and so just beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful, and I love them with all of my heart so much. And it's just I get messages from Damona's oldest on a regular basis on Marco Polo, and they'll just sit there and read me stories, and I
You
love it. I
will,
love it
yeah,
so much.
yeah. Oh, the kids and the technology. It's that's, I mean, here we are on the technology,
Right.
so yeah. Joy.
I love it. So I know I want to go and I want to get a little bit more of your coming out story because I told you mine kind of in the middle of it and how you came out and what in discovering who you are.
I never really had an official coming out as queer. It was a more like a gradual unfolding
Mhm.
and a lot of aha moments, and then looking back like, oh, okay, now all that makes sense, sort of thing, without getting into too much trauma.
Mhm.
I specifically remember my 4 years older than me sister having a girlfriend in high school, and my mom hated that girlfriend because that person was turning my sister gay.
Ugh.
So that imprinted upon me that
Mhm.
uh, even when I did come to terms with the fact that I wasn't heteronormative, I already knew that I was going to be rejected for it. Um, which ironically, I'm not actively involved with my bio family for a multitude of reasons.
Mhm. Chosen
So
family.
that's why, yeah, that comes back to like you being like a
Mhm.
um soul sister, sibling, and auntie to my kids,
Mhm.
because I don't get that from my bio family because that's not a healthy connection for me.
Mhm.
So I always seek that out with trying to seek it from the right people in my life, and you're definitely one of them on
Mhm.
on the short list. But yeah. So I never really had an official coming out as queer, but I do remember that uh when I first met my wife, I made
Mhm.
sure that she knew I wasn't straight. That sounds so weird to say that, but she didn't know she was queer at the time either.
Mhm.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
And so I was just unapologetically like, look, I know I'm not straight. So at that point, I knew I wasn't straight. Uh, and as we grew, I was in high school in the '90s.
Mhm.
Uh, elder millennial here, I
Mhm.
believe is what they call me. As last couple of decades went on, there's become so much more language around gender and
Yes.
sexuality and how many alphabets are in the mafia, or, how many of us fit under that umbrella of rainbow, queer,
Mm-hmm.
gay, and different labels and identities. Uh, but it was definitely a gradual unfolding. So coming out for me was a, a multitude of aha moments
Mm-hmm.
and learning to sit in my authenticity, because look, even though people have rejected me before they knew who I was, before I was even able to tell them who I was, by making their opinions known about something that secretly I knew I was,
Mm-hmm.
um, there's also been a multitude of people that I've just felt drawn to in my life, because like we recognize that like similar
Mm-hmm.
spirit in each other, the rebelliousness, right, of rebelling
Yes.
against the what we were taught were the norm, or the heteronormative expectations that were placed upon us.
Mm-hmm.
We've been kind of cycle breakers, and I find those people, and I have, those coming out moments of like me too, and like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
relate to that, or like, oh my gosh, I have a new way to express like demisexual, femme for femme, whatever.
Right.
So I just love all of these different ways of expressing or explaining to people kind of who we are and how we function through the world and through relating to other people, specifically sexually and or romantically.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming out as a witch was like, I specifically remember at like sixth grade learning about Greek mythology
Mm-hmm.
and telling my sister, then 4 years older than me, and unbeknownst to me, identifying herself as pagan. And I remember learning about Greek mythology, and I told her, wouldn't it be really cool if there were still people alive today who, instead of worshiping, you know, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, they still worship like Zeus and Poseidon and Hades and
Mm-hmm.
Persephone and Hera, and wouldn't that be really cool? And then I grew up a little bit, and it was literally like 18 years old. I come to find out like, no, there really are people who still kind of like tap into those older ways,
Mm-hmm.
and in a modernized way, and
Yeah.
we pull from what we think we know and not
Right.
always necessarily what was back then, but there's still, I did find a pagan circle in my, I was definitely that questioning spirituality my whole
Mm-hmm.
life, and nobody could give me straight answers. And,
Right.
I did the Christian youth group thing, and then I did the pagan circle thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually learned to kind of self-identify, self-define, and
Mm-hmm.
self-ordain. But the spirit path was always there. Like that was always a part of me that was undeniably curious, seeker, like a seeker.
Mm-hmm.
I want to understand how people work and what they believe and why they believe it, and how beneficial or harmful those beliefs are. And I
Mm-hmm.
just want to understand it all. Like on top of like being really fascinated by all kinds of different spiritualities, and also their for better or worse aspect,
Mm-hmm.
I'm also completely fascinated by cults
Mm.
and cult like deprogram.
Right.
Like if there's a new cult documentary out, people gotta tell me so I can go watch it, because I don't know why it tickles something in my brain. Like I just want to understand why people believe these things, and how humans have been able to control mass numbers of people to do sometimes unthinkable things.
In the name of
Because
something.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's just, so again, no straightforward coming out, but eventually just coming to terms with like, this is who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and I must move through the world in a way that doesn't hide that, so that I can find other people like me.
Yes.
And I learned that shame was is a learned thing.
Mm-hmm. So is guilt.
That was a game changer for me,
Mm-hmm.
because realizing that I was taught to feel ashamed about my spirituality or my sexuality, and realizing that I can choose to be proud of it and not ashamed of it. Yeah, that was, so I don't know if I come out as much as I just try to be authentic and
Mm-hmm.
unapologetic about it, and permit others to do so, and let them find me and
And
let
I
me
think
find them.
that's amazing. And I think that what you said, permit others to find you and love is so important because it's so hard sometimes I think to give ourselves permission to do so. And I think that's what held me back for so many years is I was trying to fit this thing that I knew I didn't fit into. I was the round peg in a square hole. I was not fitting no matter how hard I tried, and giving myself permission to
just
just
be a round peg.
stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be a round peg, to come out and tell my mom, who was amazing and instantly supportive, and
I love your
my
mama.
family. I have the best mommy. I know. I'm really, really, really lucky. But, and again, have friends. And thankfully I was at the point in time where I was in a community that there was enough friend and crossover that I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel like I was ever alone in my coming out journey, though I was. I mean, I walked the path alone as I was doing it, but I always knew that there was someone that I could talk to about what I was doing because they had either similar experiences or they had a little more knowledge, and having that acceptance.
Yeah.
Acceptance for me just makes me want to help others who are on that 100%. Same path.
Same.
And again, the best thing, I said, Lisa, you say you're elder millennial. I am that verge of that Zennial Gen X. I'm at that very, very, very tail end of Gen X on that millennial threshold crossover. And it's a different
slightly older than me.
Slightly older. Not too much, but a little bit. And it's so funny, or not really funny, but again, watching how we were raised, what we were taught, and what we can shift into. And like you said, the newer generation, just being able to be open and accepting and have names for things that we didn't know existed.
Access to technology, where we were in the bookstores buying books about this
exactly
stuff.
I don't know how many witchy books I bought and hid.
Me too, under my bed.
But I mean, as a 20-something-year-old, as a 28-year-old, 29-year-old, because I was married, and again in a Catholic wedding, and this was not something that I was supposed to be doing. And the one time I brought up saying, "Hey, I'm interested in," I literally got such blowback of like, "Well, why did we do this? And what do you mean?" And it was like, okay, well, I can't ever speak about this. And so I would tuck in there. It would manifest in other little ways, like I had a candle obsession, but
oh, that's so Catholic.
that could be just as Catholic.
Candles
and it's
so instant.
And it's really funny because I will
Catholic
never forget.
Girl to Pagan pipeline.
Exactly. And that's exactly what it was. I remember going in for my very first tarot reading ever. There was a little bookstore called East West Bookstore. So it was around the corner from me. I
remember that one.
I love East West so much, but I went in there and I'm like going, okay, no one's around. I'm on the day off. Good. I am going to get a tarot reading. And I did. And the tarot reader and everything else I mentioned that, she's all, Catholics make the best pagans. They really do, because they're already steeped in ritual and they are steeped in the idea of a pantheon as it stands. And I will never, ever forget that the Catholic to pagan pipeline is so real.
We joke about that one a lot. Yeah. That's a joke.
But
it's like the lesbians with their U-Hauls.
Exactly. But it opened my mind, and it's that idea that there's something else. And again, feeling connected with that without having the words or the right ability to explain why you are so connected to something.
Yeah.
And that Greek mythology was, again, huge. I loved Greek mythology growing up, and I think there's something in that.
Oh, and then I tumbled down into other mythologies, and and also, I mean, there's a whole other rabbit hole about like who's telling the story thing,
right?
But and why? But that's how my brain. It's always worked that way.
And that's the thing, is it's a part of you. It really is. It's how you see life. And
so I did this thing specifically, like remembering when I started dating my wife, the person that is now my wife. When I started dating them, I was like, look, there's these things about me that you're just gonna have to accept. And one was I will never choose you over my friends. Like you're not gonna choose my friends for me, and you're not gonna manipulate me into abandoning my friends. You know? So that was like a big boundary that I laid out right from the start. And the other one is like, look, I'm pagan. So you either accept that, or this probably isn't going to work out because it's important to me, and you don't have to be that, and we don't even have to talk about it, but you can't like require that I drop that. And then the other thing was that I'm queer identified, and they had to accept all three of those things about me, And I've actually done the same thing to finding a therapist. I
Mm-hmm.
said I both times I found the therapist that I've loved and that worked well for me was initiated with, these are the things about me that you have to accept because I'm not going to change them.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things about me that I'm struggling with and I need help with, and you can
Yeah.
help me change these things. But these things you just have to like borderline, like that's my boundary. You have to be like okay with that I am this person. And again, it's the queer, the open
Mm-hmm.
relationship and or polyamorous,
Mm-hmm.
and like I need to be able to talk about these things without being shamed for it because I don't feel any shame of it, but
Mm-hmm.
some people may not want to be a therapist for that or a partner for that.
Exactly. No, I
Deal
ditto
breakers.
so
Yeah.
so much. That's my current partner. Like I said, the way I met them was through a friend who was their partner at the time, but same thing. I was straight up front. I was just out of the marriage. Actually, I was still technically married, but we had been separated and living apart, and we had actually sold everything. So we were functionally separated. The only thing we hadn't done was the paperwork.
Yeah.
And um, I'm going. This is who I am. I am queer. I am this. I am. This is. And you're
Yep.
welcome. That Pantheacon. They came over one day and came over and saw what my life was like in the midst of this crazy mystical spirituality, and I think it shocked them in some ways, but also at the same time opened them up in a lot of
Yeah.
other ways. They had their own kind of unique spiritual experience that night. But I stopped hiding. It's like I am this. This is queer. This is who I am. And if you're going to be in a relationship with me, you need to know these things. And
Yeah.
like you said, same thing with my therapist. It was I had one point in time, again, in the whole trauma of trying to process the grief of a divorce and process all that other kind of stuff. I needed a therapist, and the first one I had was amazing, but they were in that transitioning, so they were in that their last year of school, so they have to then finish up, and they can't see anyone while they're finishing up the thing. So I lost my therapist, and
Mm.
I tried to going. I had an emergency moment. I called a new one, and she's like, "Okay, what polyamory? What is that? How do I do this?" And I realized I can't. If I'm spending an
It can.
entire session trying to explain why this is an unhealthy, why this works for me, and it's not an unhealthy thing,
Yeah.
then it won't work. And so I'm searching queer positive, and I found my current therapist, and I love him. He's a queer man, and he's like I want these poly open relationships and things like that because there's such a need in the community for people who just don't understand that this is
Yeah.
this is a natural aspect. We are so we are people are have such a wide variety of on the of spectrums, and whether
Yeah.
it's relationships and sexuality and all of that, there needs to be people who understand it and not think of these in binary terms.
Yeah.
So it's just
And
it's
especially with people who are like partners or therapists, they need to be
mhm,
able to accept us fundamentally on the level of meeting us with who we are authentically. Because if
absolutely.
you're already starting off hiding a part of yourself, that connection is not healthy.
No, no, it is a tower that will crumble.
And maybe that's why you and I have been able to stay friends for so long, is because
I
we
think
just
so.
started out within our authentic self of just
Hmm.
being like, look, this is who I am.
Yeah,
Love it or hate it,
yeah, I think so. and
engage or
and just
not.
and bringing out the best in the other, because you absolutely bring out the best in me, and I try to feel like I feel like I try to bring out the best in
Oh,
you sometimes too
100%.
when we're doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's asking the tough questions, it's listening, and it's being honest and real,
And the other thing
good
you
and
do
bad.
is you get me out of my funk so often just by offering me an adventure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because sometimes distraction is what we need to help our
Hmm.
minds process the next part.
Yeah. And we also like need to be having fun.
Yes.
Yeah. And you definitely have, you make that accessible to me, I think. Yeah. Because I mean, it's mom life is
Mhm.
challenge. And you always give me like little mini vacations or, you know, yeah,
uh, uh,
breaks and stuff. And also, if and when we're doing something together, like me and kids and the fam come to
mhm.
a gig that your partner's doing, you're always one of the first ones to like scoop up the kids in your arms and help keep an eye on the one that never wants to sit still
Right.
and hold the one that doesn't run around.
Hmm. It's because I want you to be able to enjoy.
Yeah.
the
And
circumstances, the experiences, and
and I
everything
want
about
you
it.
to be able to enjoy the children in your life.
I do. I do.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
Auntie Shay.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want to kind of touch on. I know we've kind of gone a little bit off the rails from where we had
We
initially
did,
planned
but
our
we
outline,
can
but
always edit some of that stuff out if we need to.
if we need to, but honestly, I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think
It wasn't that hard to talk about ourselves after all.
I know, go figure.
Go figure. Sometimes the ego does like a little fluffing.
Totally.
And I just want, our listeners to, feel that connection to us and hopefully find, that they in their authenticity are welcome in our pod here.
Please. And again, please, we love it when you comment or when you express who you are and tell us about yourself or reach out or all of that when you tell us about yourself, because we don't want to just be talking to the void. The queer community is what we are about. That's why we started this. We started because there's so many binaries or were so many binaries in traditional paganism and that kind of aspect, and finding this queer community, because I think queer community has saved us both at different points in time.
100%.
And being able to reach out to those who are in the queer community and are different and on that kind of polytheistic spectrum, shall we say, rather than monotheistic.
Polyromantic, polytheistic. We just get
polyamorous.
around.
Yeah. If you're a little bit poly in any way, shape, or form.
And there's also the fact that not all pagans deify worship deity, but they're more connected to just nature and soul work. And
like I said, my first deity was dragon,
right,
which is such a weird kind of thing to talk about, because we have like goddesses and gods that we just sit there, but there's definitely, my first connection was an archetype versus a divinity. So it's really interesting on how that all kind of plays around, which we'll
also
talk
another podcast, because I could go on a rant about what even is deity. Well, with that all said, I think that this is a great time to wrap up our little This Is Who We Are episode. So thanks for listening, and thanks for the travels down memory lane, my dear friend.
It's been
over
wonderful.
A decade.
Almost 15 years.
We're getting
we're getting up there. Up there, my friend.
we're getting well into that second decade. Yes.
I love it.
And thanks to the listeners for listening to our Queer Witch project. If you enjoyed this topic, follow, and leave a comment. Tell us a little bit about you.
If there is a topic that you want to know more about, or an episode topic you want to suggest, please contact us at thequeerwitchproject@gmail.com, or find us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram with the handle @queerwitchproject. We upload twice a month. And always remember, queerness is a key to magic.
Be yourself and love rebelliously.
Bye.